At the class reunion, my fiancé, Juang, pulled the school beauty into his arms and made an announcement to the crowd in German. My wedding with Lin Shi is cancelled next month. The woman I'm marrying is Coco, here beside me. Thinking I couldn't understand a word, he looked at me with a smug grin, waiting for me to burst into tears and beg him for a translation. The rest of our classmates filtered me through looks of pure pity. I simply smiled, picked up the microphone next to me and addressed him and his junior in German. Happy wedding, may you have a long and harmonious life together. Then I switched to French, Russian, Spanish. I went through a total of 8 languages, delivering blessings in every single one. I laughed as I watched their faces turn pale in an instant. The hotel ballroom was a scene of opulence, clinking glasses and a buzzing crowd. It was our 5-year graduation reunion. My name is Xunyan and I was sitting quietly in a corner. The gown I was wearing had been handpicked for me by Jiyu Cheng a month ago. He told me he wanted me to be the most dazzling woman in the room. Well, he succeeded, except the dazzling one wasn't me, it was Bai Wei standing by his side. Bai Wei, our year's school beauty, was currently clinging to Jiyu Cheng like a vine. Jiyu Cheng stood in the center of the stage, glass in hand. He cleared his throat and the room fell silent. Every eye was on him, including mine. I looked at him, my fiancé. We were supposed to be married next month. There was a look of high-spirited triumph on Jiyu Cheng's face that I had never seen before. He tightened his grip on Bai Wei's waist and raised his glass. His voice boomed through the microphone, filling the hall. It was German. Jiyu Cheng knew I had studied English in college and didn't know a lick of German. He thought announcing it this way was his version of giving me a dignified exit. He looked at me with a hint of contemptuous pride, as if he were admiring an old piece of junk he was about to toss out. Today I have an important announcement to make. The wedding originally planned between myself and Xunyan is cancelled. As he spoke, our classmates instinctively looked toward me. Their eyes were filled with sympathy and compassion, as if I were a puppy being publicly abandoned by its owner. Bai Wei snuggled into Jiyu Cheng's chest, a winner's smirk playing on her lips. Jiyu Cheng paused, savoring the spotlight. He held up Bai Wei's hand like a prized trophy. Next month, I will be marrying the lady beside me, the beautiful Bai Wei. After finishing, he gave Bai Wei's forehead a soulful kiss. The room erupted in a hushed roar. No one understood the German, but everyone understood that gesture. Jiyu Cheng's gaze landed on me again. He was waiting for me to break down, to cry, to rush up and demand to know what he had just said. That way, he could repeat those cruel words in Chinese with the most innocent tone imaginable. The whispers of our classmates began to prick at me like needles. Oh my God, what does Jiyu Cheng mean by this? Isn't that Bai Wei next to him? Xunyan is right there. This is so awkward. Is he backing out of the wedding in public? I didn't move. I even gave him a small smile. Then I picked up my red wine and took a light sip. Under the stunned stares of Jiyu Cheng and Bai Wei, I stood up and walked toward the stage. I took the other microphone from the MC. Facing them, I gave a slight elegant bow, the perfect lady. Then my voice rang out, clear and cold. Happy wedding, may you have a long and harmonious life together. I said it in German. The smile on Jiyu Cheng's face froze instantly. Bai Wei's smug expression turned into a mask of shock. The room went dead silent. The classmates who had been pitying me now had their eyes wide with disbelief. I didn't stop looking at their ghostly pale faces. I switched languages. French, congratulations on your marriage. I wish you both endless happiness. Russian, congratulations on your union. May you grow old together. Spanish, congratulations on your wedding. Wishing you 100 years of harmony. Italian, Portuguese, Japanese, Korean. I used 8 languages in total. I turned the most beautiful blessings into the loudest slaps, stinging their faces. The entire ballroom was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was stunned. Jiyu Cheng's lips trembled, but he couldn't squeeze out a single word. He never could have imagined that the Xunyan who was always so gentle and obedient, the woman who gave up on grad school because he said an English major was useless, actually spoke so many languages. Finally, I switched back to Chinese. My gaze swept over Jiyu Cheng, over Bai Wei, and over every shocked face in the audience. Jiyu Cheng, I said softly, this humiliation you tried to gift me, I'm returning it to sender. From today on we're even. With that, I set the microphone on the table and turned around. The click of my heels against the polished marble floor was sharp and rhythmic. Sounding like a victory drum, I didn't look back, not even once, stepping out of the hotel doors. The night breeze hit my face with a refreshing chill. I hailed a taxi. After giving the driver the address, I leaned against the window, watching the neon lights blur past. Tears eventually betrayed me and rolled down my cheeks. They weren't for Ji-Yu Cheng, they were for the 8 years of my youth that had just died. From my sophomore year until now, 8 years, the most important time of my life had been branded with Ji-Yu Cheng's name. I used to think we were a fairy tale. I didn't realize we'd end as a joke. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror and handed me a tissue. Rough breakup, kid. I took the tissue and thanked him. It's not a breakup. I wiped my eyes and looked at my reddened reflection in the mirror. It's a rebirth. I returned to the apartment Ji-Yu Cheng and I shared. It used to be my sanctuary. Now it just felt like a cruel irony. Our massive wedding photo still hung on the living room wall. In the photo, I was beaming with happiness, and his eyes were full of doting affection. I climbed onto a stool and took the photo down. It was heavy, just like the 8 years of emotions that had been suffocating me. I dropped it on the floor, and the glass frame shattered into a million pieces, just like my heart. Then I pulled out my phone and opened WeChat. I found the family and friends group we had set up for the wedding. I sent a message to all our friends and family. This is Xunyan. Due to a breakdown in our relationship, Ji-Yu Cheng and I have decided to cancel next month's wedding. I will return any gift money received one by one. I apologize for any inconvenience. I didn't wait for a single reply. I left the group immediately. Then I opened Ji-Yu Cheng's profile. Blocked, deleted, one smooth motion. Next, I went into the walk-in closet. Half the clothes were mine, the other half were his. I pulled out several large suitcases and threw every single thing belonging to Ji-Yu Cheng inside. His suits, his ties, his watches, his sneakers. I even packed the professional books he kept at my place. Everything. Finally, I took a velvet box from the nightstand. Inside was the diamond engagement ring he gave me when he proposed. 1 carat. Back then, he told me I was the most brilliant diamond in his life. I looked at the ring and laughed. Then, I tossed it onto the pile of packed luggage by the door. I sent Ji-Yu Cheng one last text. Your things are at the door. You have 1 hour to pick them up. After that, I'm treating them as trash. After sending it, I blocked his number too. The world finally felt quiet. I went into the bathroom and took a long hot shower. As I came out wrapped in a towel, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I picked up. A shrill female voice pierced through the line. Xunyan, have you lost your mind? It was Ji-Yu Cheng's mother, Ju Yalan. She had never liked me, thinking I came from too small a family to be worthy of her exceptional son. Auntie, I don't think we have anything to talk about, I said calmly. How dare you throw A Cheng's things out? How dare you unilaterally cancel the wedding? You've humiliated the Ji-Yu family, Ju Yalan screamed over the phone. I moved the phone a bit further from my ear. I'm not the one who brought shame to the family, I said. It was your precious son who announced he was marrying another woman in front of everyone at a reunion. Nonsense. A Cheng was just momentarily confused. As his fiancé, you should be more broad-minded and give him a chance to make amends. A chance? I laughed. Auntie, are you that naive, or do you just think I'm stupid? Xunyan, let me tell you something. Don't you dare be ungrateful. Our A Cheng paid the down payment for that apartment you're living in. If you dare break up with him, get your things and get out of that house right now. She finally revealed her true goal. The apartment I bought with Ji-Yu Cheng for our marriage. It's in a great location, 3 bedrooms, 2 living areas, about 1,500 square feet. Ji-Yu Cheng handled the down payment of 500,000 yuan, but I've been the one paying the mortgage every single month. Both our names are on the deed. Ju Yalan thought she could use this house to keep me under her thumb, just like she's done countless times in the past. Too bad for her. I'm not the same person I used to be. Auntie Ju, I said slowly, a hint of a smile in my voice. You seem to have forgotten that I've been the one paying the mortgage this whole time, and I have the records for every single transfer. As for that down payment, are you absolutely sure not a single cent of that 500,000 came from me? On the other end of the line, Ju Yalan's breath hitched sharply. What do you mean by that? My smile widened. You'll find out soon enough. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, I've already contacted my lawyer. I'll see you in court. Without waiting for a response, I hung up. After ending the call with Ju Yalan, I let out a long deep breath. It felt as if a massive weight had finally been lifted off my chest. I knew the war had only just begun, but I was no longer the defenseless, vulnerable Xunyan who could be pushed around for. The past 8 years I had sacrificed far too much for Jiyu Cheng. I was originally a top student in the German department, a national scholarship recipient with the highest GPA in the program. In my senior year, I received an exchange offer from Heidelberg University in Germany. It was the dream destination for every German major, but Jiyu Cheng told me he didn't want a long-distance relationship. He was afraid I'd have a change of heart once I went abroad. He held me and begged me to stay for him. I tore up that offer. After graduation, I landed a high-paying translation job at a foreign firm. Jiyu Cheng said again that a girl shouldn't work so hard, that being too busy would hurt our relationship. For him, I quit that job and took a quiet administrative role at a private company. My salary was cut in half, but it gave me plenty of time to spend with him. When he started his business, I gave him all my savings to support him. When he pulled all-nighters, I stayed up with him. When he had business dinners, I was home preparing meals for him. I thought my sacrifices would lead to a happy future. Now I see it was all just wishful thinking. What Jiyu Cheng wanted was never a partner to stand by his side. He wanted a submissive, obedient pet he could control, but he forgot one thing. Even a rabbit will bite when cornered. I walked into the study and turned on the computer. I wasn't lying, I really did have every bank statement for the mortgage payments, and I wasn't bluffing Ju Yalan either. When we bought the house, that 500,000 yuan down payment looked like it came solely from Jiyu Cheng, but 200,000 of it was actually my own savings from my first 2 years of work, which I had quietly transferred to him at the time. He said a man should provide the house and he didn't want my family thinking he was incompetent, so he asked me to keep it quiet. I believed him. Looking back, he was already carving out an exit strategy for himself even then. Fortunately, I kept the transfer receipt. I organized all the evidence into categories and created an encrypted package. Then I made a call. "Hello, is this Attorney Lee?" A steady, professional female voice answered. "Hello, Ms. Xu." Attorney Lee was a senior of mine from university and is now the most famous divorce lawyer in the city. Back then, she was a legend at our law school. I gave her a concise summary of what had just happened. The line went silent for a moment. "Xunyan, you did the right thing," Attorney Lee said with a note of approval. "Do you have all the evidence?" "Every bit of it." "Excellent, send everything to my email, I'll handle the rest." "Thank you, senior." "Don't be silly, don't mention it." She laughed. "I told you a long time ago, men can't be relied on. Only your career and your money are truly yours. You just wouldn't listen. It's not too late to wake up now. By the way, I think there's something you might be interested in." "What is it?" "Jiyu Cheng's company has been bidding on a major project lately. The partner is a German company called Rheinmetall. The project is worth 100 million. If he lands this, his company will skyrocket. He's been preparing for this for an entire year." Hearing the words German company, my heart skipped a beat. "Senior, what are you suggesting?" The CEO of Rheinmetall, Mr. Hans Schmidt, is a very rigorous and conservative German man. Attorney Lee's voice carried a hint of amusement. "What he values most is the character and sense of family responsibility of his business partners. Tell me if he knew that Jiyu Cheng was a man who publicly abandoned his fiancée just a month before their wedding. What do you think he would do?" My breath hitched. I understood. I understood exactly what she meant. Jiyu Cheng wanted to use the house to force me into submission. Fine, I'll cut the ground out from under him. I'll take away the thing he cares about most, his career, his future, and everything he's so proud of. "Senior, I know what to do now." My voice was calmer than ever before. "Give me Mr. Schmidt's contact information." I hung up the phone. A cold smile played on my lips. "Jiyu Cheng, by way, for the grand humiliation you gave me, it's time I returned the favor. The real show has only just begun." 04 I walked out of the glitzy hotel. The bitter night wind stung my cheeks. I wrapped my thin dress tighter around myself and hailed a taxi. I gave the address of the place I once thought would be my home for life. The window rolled up, sealing out the noise of the world. I leaned against the cold glass, watching the neon lights blur past. It felt like a bizarre dream. Finally, the tears I had been holding back began to fall, not for that jerk Juang, but for my youth. 10 whole years of it, now gone. From my sophomore year until now, 10 years, the best years of my life were tied to him. I thought we were a match made in heaven. As it turns out, I was just a solo act in a play I directed myself. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror and silently handed me a pack of tissues. Rough night with the boyfriend, kid. I took the tissues and whispered a thank you. It wasn't a fight. I wiped my tears and looked at my red-rimmed eyes in the mirror, but my gaze was clear as day. It's a new beginning. I arrived at the apartment I shared with Juang, pushing open the door. Our matching couple's slippers were still sitting in the entryway. On the wall hung the massive wedding portrait we had taken just last month. In the photo, I was beaming, radiating happiness. He looked at me with doting, tender eyes. It was all so beautiful and so pathetic. I climbed onto a chair and struggled to pull down the heavy frame. It was so heavy, just like the weight of the emotions I'd carried for 10 years, suffocating me. I let go with a deafening crash. The glass frame shattered into 1,000 shards. Just like my heart, I took out my phone and opened WeChat. I found the group chat created for the wedding guests. People were still excitedly discussing wedding details for next month. Expressionless, I typed out a message. To all our friends and family, I, Lin Shi, have decided to cancel the wedding next month. Due to an irreconcilable breakdown in my relationship with Mr. Juang, I will be returning all gift money individually. I deeply apologize for the inconvenience. I hit send. I didn't stick around to see the shock or the questions. I left the group immediately. Next, I tapped on Juang's profile. The one I had kept pinned at the top for countless days and nights, blocked, deleted, one smooth motion. After that, I walked into the walk-in closet. Half was my clothes, the other half was his. I pulled out the largest suitcases I could find. I threw in every single thing that belonged to him, not a single item left behind. His expensive custom suits, his favorite brand name ties, his limited edition watch collection, and his entire wall of sneakers, even a few of his finance textbooks. I packed it all until the bags were bursting. Finally, I reached into the back of the nightstand drawer and pulled out a velvet jewelry box. Inside was the engagement ring Juang gave me when he proposed, a 2-carat pigeon egg diamond. At the time, he told me I was the most unique, brilliant diamond in his life. I looked at the ring and laughed. I laughed until the tears came back. I piled it on top of the suitcases by the front door. I sent Juang one last text. All your stuff is outside the door. You have 1 hour to come get it. Anything left after that will be treated as trash and thrown into the dumpster downstairs. Message sent. I moved his number to the blacklist. Suddenly, the whole world felt quiet. I went into the bathroom, turned on the shower, and let the warm water wash over me. I wanted it to wash away every trace he had left on me over the last decade. As I walked out wrapped in a towel, drying my hair, my phone suddenly rang. It was an unknown number. I swiped to answer. Immediately a shrill, angry female voice pierced through. Lin Shi, have you lost your mind? It was Juang's mother, Meng Lan. She had always looked down on me, thinking my background was too ordinary for her prodigal son. Auntie, I don't think we have anything left to say to each other, I said, my voice as calm as a still pond. How dare you throw Ang's things out? What right do you have to unilaterally cancel the wedding in front of the whole family? You've completely humiliated the Ju family. You ungrateful woman. Meng Lan was shrieking hysterically. I pulled the phone away from my ear and rubbed it. I wasn't the one who caused the humiliation, I said flatly. It was your wonderful son who announced he was marrying another woman in front of hundreds of former classmates. Nonsense. Ang was just momentarily confused. As his fiancé, you should be broad-minded and give him a chance to fix his mistake. A chance? I felt as if I'd just heard the world's biggest joke. Auntie Meng, are you that naive or do you just think I'm that stupid? Lin Shi, I'm warning you, don't push your luck. The down payment for that apartment you're living in was paid by our Ang. If you dare break up with him, you get your things and get the hell out of that house immediately. She finally bared her sharpest fangs. The apartment, a 2,000 square foot luxury flat located in the city's prime Golden District. When we bought it, Juang provided the 1 million yuan down payment, but I've been the one paying the 20,000 yuan monthly mortgage. Both our names are on the deed. Meng Lan thought she could use this property to keep me under her thumb, just as she had done countless times before. Too bad for her. The woman standing here today is not the same woman from the past. Auntie Meng, I said slowly, a cold, mocking smile in my voice. You seem to have forgotten one thing. For the past 2 years, every single mortgage payment for this apartment has been drawn from my account. I have the complete bank statements to prove it. As for that million-yuan down payment, are you absolutely sure not a single cent of that came from me? On the other end of the line, Meng Lan's breath hitched sharply. What do you mean by that? My smile deepened. I'm sure you're precious. Sun will explain it to you soon enough. Oh, and I almost forgot to tell you. Just now I contacted my lawyer. I'll see you in court. Without waiting for a reaction, I hung up decisively. After ending the call with Meng Lan, I let out a long, heavy breath. It felt as if a massive boulder that had been crushing my heart for 10 years had finally been shoved aside. I knew this war was only just beginning, but I was no longer the defenseless Lin Shi who could only sit back and take the hits over the last 10 years. I had sacrificed far too much for Juang and that ridiculous notion of love. I was originally the star student of the German department at the Foreign Languages Institute, a perennial winner of the National Special Scholarship with a GPA that stood firmly at the top of the entire department. In my senior year, I received full scholarship exchange offers from both the University of Munich and Heidelberg University. Those are the dream cathedrals for every German major, but when Juang found out, he held me and cried the whole night. He said he was terrified of a long-distance relationship, afraid that once my horizons expanded abroad, I wouldn't want him anymore. With bloodshot eyes, he begged me to stay, saying he couldn't live without me for the sake of his so-called security. I personally tore up those 2 offers that could have changed the trajectory of my life. After graduation, relying on my exceptional linguistic skills, I easily landed a position as the chief translator for a top-tier German firm with a 7-figure salary. But then Juang said a woman shouldn't be so driven, that being too busy with work would damage our relationship. He said he loved the feeling of me being at home, cooking for him. I resigned from that promising career and took a mindless administrative job at a small private firm. My salary shrank to 1/10 of what it was, but it gave me plenty of time to cater to his every daily need. When he started his business, I took all 500,000 yuan of my savings and gave it to him without a second thought. When he stayed up late working on projects, I stayed up all night with him researching data and translating. When he had to entertain clients, I handled all the arrangements beforehand and quietly looked after him when he came home drunk. I thought my total devotion would earn me a future of mutual devotion. Now I see it was all just a self-deluded joke. What Juang wanted was never a soulmate to stand beside him in battle. He wanted a submissive, obedient, pretty pet to satisfy his chauvinistic need for control. But he forgot one thing. Even a rabbit will bite when cornered. Besides, I was never a rabbit. I walked into the study and opened my laptop. I hadn't lied to Meng Lan. I truly had every single bank record for the mortgage payments clear as day. And I certainly wasn't bluffing her either. On the surface, it looked like Juang provided the entire million-yuan down payment, but 500,000 of that was actually the savings I had accumulated before I resigned. I gave him the bank card and told him to use it for the payment. At the time, he said it was only natural for a man to buy the house. He didn't want my family to think he was incompetent or relying on a woman, so he begged me not to say a word. I was actually stupid enough to believe him. Looking back, even then, he was meticulously paving his own escape route. Fortunately, I had the foresight to keep the transaction vouchers and all the transfer records for that card. I sorted all the evidence into categories, packaged them, and encrypted the file. Then I dialed a number I knew by heart. "Hello, Sister Chen, it's me, Lin Shi." A steady, capable, and magnetic female voice answered. "Xiao Shi, you finally decided to call me." Sister Chen Jing, was my senior from university. She is now the city's most prestigious gold medal lawyer, specializing in marriage and property disputes. Back in the day, she was an undefeated legend at our law school. I gave her a concise summary of everything that happened at the reunion and my conversation with Meng Lan. The line went silent for a moment. "Lin Shi, you did well. You're much calmer and more decisive than I imagined," Chen Jing said, a hint of hard-earned approval in her voice. "Do you still have all the evidence? Every single bit? Excellent. Send everything to my encrypted email immediately. I'll handle the rest." "Sister Chen, thank you. Don't be silly, don't mention it." Chen Jing laughed softly. I told you a long time ago that men, especially extremely conceited men like Ju Ang, are unreliable. Only your career and the money in your hand are a woman's true foundation. You just wouldn't listen. It's not too late to wake up now. By the way, there's something I think you might be very interested in. What is it? Ju Ang's company is currently going all out to bid on a massive, critical project. The partner is a long-standing German manufacturing giant called Rhine Power. The project is worth 300 million yuan. If they land it, Ju Ang's company will become an industry leader overnight. He's bet his entire net worth on this project and has been preparing for it for a full year. Hearing the words German company, my heart skipped a beat. Sister Chen, what are you saying? The CEO of Rhine Power, Mr. Klaus Becker, is a very rigorous old-school German gentleman. Chen Jing's voice carried a sharp, playful edge. The thing he values most in life is the character and sense of family responsibility of his business partners. Tell me if he knew that Ju Ang was a man who, just 1 month before his wedding and in front of hundreds of people, abandoned his fiancée of 10 years in the most humiliating way possible. How do you think he would react? My breathing quickened instantly. I understood exactly what Chen Jing meant. Ju Ang and his family wanted to use the house and public opinion to force me into submission and leave me with nothing. Fine, I'll cut the ground out from under him. I'll directly sever the things he cares about most, his career, his future, and that brilliant life he's so proud of. Sister Chen, I know what to do. My voice was calmer than ever, with a faint, predatory trace of excitement. Send me all of Mr. Becker's contact info and all the data on this project. I hung up, a bone-chilling smile curled on my lips. Ju Ang cuckoo. This grand humiliation you two teamed up to give me, it's my turn to return the favor. The real show has only just begun. After hanging up with Chen Jing, there wasn't a trace of sadness left in my heart. Only cold calculation and a burning will to fight. Ju Ang probably never dreamed of this. The German major he once looked down upon, the one he scoffed at and forced me to give up, was about to become the sharpest blade in my hand. A blade sharp enough to cut through all his pride and ambition. Soon, Chen Jing's email arrived. It contained detailed information about Rhine Power CEO Klaus Becker and the specifics of the bidding project. I didn't act immediately. Instead, I spent 3 solid hours meticulously studying the material 3 times over. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. I wasn't just going to get revenge, I was going to win beautifully, in a way that left him no room to argue. The data showed that Mr. Becker was a typical old-school German aristocrat, rigorous, formal, detail-oriented, and possessed of a near-obsessive demand for family ethics. He once fired a highly capable subordinate without hesitation simply because the man had an affair. To him, a man who cannot be responsible for his family is a man who cannot be responsible for a massive project. And the core technology for the project Ju Ang was bidding on was Rhine Power's specialty. The key to the partnership lay in the cultural integration and seamless communication between the Chinese and German sides. Ju Ang's company's biggest weakness was exactly that. They lacked a truly top-tier German-speaking talent who understood both German culture and commercial negotiation. After reviewing all the data, I had a complete plan. I opened a blank document and began drafting an email. The recipient, Mr. Klaus Becker. I didn't write this email in Chinese nor in English. I used the most rigorous, elegant business German. In the opening of the email, I didn't mention a single word about my personal grudge against Ju Ang. I introduced myself as a senior Sino-German cross-cultural business consultant and expressed my highest professional regards to him and Rhine Power. Then, from a professional perspective, I provided a deep analysis of several key cultural barriers and communication bottlenecks that could exist in this specific partnership. Every point I made was backed by professional precedent, striking right at the heart of the project's vital interests. These were insights that weren't in the files Chen Jing sent me, things only someone with my years of professional depth could see through. It was only in the latter half of the email that I changed my tone. I incidentally mentioned that I had recently learned through public channels that there seemed to be some troubling flaws in the personal character of the founder of their potential Chinese partner. I wrote, as a professional who deeply loves German culture and is committed to Sino-German business exchange, I know the importance of reputation and character to an enterprise. Especially when facing a distinguished partner such as yourself, Mr. Becker. A public betrayal witnessed by hundreds of alumni is not only a massive injury to his fiancée personally, but a heartless trampling of his own commercial credibility. If a man can so easily trample over a 10-year relationship, how can we trust him to respect a commercial contract that spans several years? I didn't name names, but every word was like a precision surgical knife, peeling back Zhuang's polished exterior. At the end of the email I attached my curriculum vitae. On that resume, the two offers from the University of Munich and Heidelberg University, the ones I had once abandoned, were placed in the most prominent positions. I also included a link. The link opened to a short video from today's reunion. Even though they couldn't understand the German, the video perfectly captured the whole scene. Zhuang with his arm around Cuckoo announcing their news, and me blessing them in 8 different languages. It had been recorded and posted to social media by an anonymous classmate who thought the drama was too good not to share. Now it had become my most powerful piece of evidence. Once everything was ready, I double-checked the phrasing and grammar of the email to ensure it was flawless. Then I took a deep breath. I hit send. As the notification message sent popped up on the screen, the first smile of my revenge spread across my face. Zhuang, this humiliation you handed me, consider it returned. But this is only the beginning. The real show is just getting started. The moment the email sent successfully, the last lingering attachment in my heart vanished into thin air. In its place was a sense of calm and resolve I had never felt before. I shut my laptop and walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window in the living room. Outside, the city lights sparkled like a river of stars. It felt like the first time I was truly seeing them. For the past 10 years, my entire world had revolved around Zhuang. His moods were my weather forecast. Now, I had finally stepped out of that cramped little world. My phone alarm went off. The 1-hour deadline I gave Zhuang was up. That pile of trash at the door, the physical remains of 10 years of my youth, was still sitting there. He hadn't come. I wasn't surprised. With Zhuang's bone-deep arrogance, there was no way he would bow down to an ultimatum I set. He probably thought I was just throwing a tantrum. He assumed that, just like all our fights in the past, if he gave me the cold shoulder, I'd eventually cave, drag his things back inside, and beg for his forgiveness. Too bad for him. He was dead wrong. I picked up my phone and called the building's property management. Hello, security department, this is the owner of Unit 18, Building 1. Could you send 2 cleaning staff up? There's some abandoned bulk trash outside my door that needs clearing out. Yes, throw it all away. Thank you for your help. As I hung up, I could almost picture the look on Zhuang's face when he found out his limited edition sneakers and expensive suits had been hauled off to the dump. Just then the doorbell rang. It was sharp, aggressive, and filled with obvious rage. I looked through the peephole. It was Zhuang. He wasn't alone. Standing beside him was Cuckoo, the campus belle who had looked so pitiful at the banquet. Right now, Cuckoo was clinging to Zhuang's arm, a smug, provocative look on her face. She acted as if she were already the mistress of this house. I sneered and swung the door open. I didn't invite them in. I simply leaned against the doorframe. Mr. Zhu, you're late, I said flatly, my voice devoid of emotion. I've already notified property management to deal with your trash. Zhuang's face turned livid, the fire in his eyes nearly boiling over. Lin Shi, haven't you had enough? He growled, his voice dripping with impatience. Get my things back inside, stop making a scene in public. His tone was the same as always, commanding and condescending. He acted as if everything I was doing was just a pathetic ploy to get his attention. Your things, I chuckled softly, my gaze flickering over to Cuckoo. Oh, you mean the stuff at the door? That's trash now. And Mr. Zhu, you seem to be mistaken about something. This is my home. Please stop shouting in front of my doorstep. As for making a scene, my gaze settled on Cuckoo's pale face. I don't think anyone understands the meaning of that better than the two of you. Cuckoo flinched, instinctively ducking behind Zhuang. Zhuang's temper hit the breaking point. Lin Shi, don't be ungrateful. Do you really think I won't? Do you really think that if you say one more word, I won't call the police for trespassing and harassment? I cut him off, my eyes cold as ice. Zhuang, I am not joking with you. Take your woman, take your junk and get the hell out of my life. Between us there is nothing left but a courtroom. I finished and stopped looking at him. Right on cue, the cleaning lady from property management arrived pushing a massive trash cart. "Miss, is this the stuff?" "Yes, I nodded, my voice much warmer. "I'm sorry for the trouble, please take it all away." "You got it." The lady started tossing the expensive suits and boxes into the cart. One by one, Zhuang's eyes turned bloodshot. "Stop, don't touch my stuff." He tried to rush forward to stop her. I just watched him coldly. "Zhuang, if you cause a scene here today, I'd be happy to let all the neighbors come out and enjoy the glorious history of you and the lady beside you." He froze. He stared at me with pure venom and disbelief. He couldn't wrap his head around the fact that the Lin Shi who had been his obedient shadow for 10 years could become so unrecognizable, so ruthless finally. He squeezed a sentence out through gritted teeth. "Lin Shi, you're going to regret this." "Regret?" I laughed, a genuine heartfelt laugh. "The only thing I regret is not seeing your true colors 10 years ago when I first met you. Right now I just feel lucky." With that, I gave them no further chance. Slam, I shut the door. I locked those two disgusting people and 10 years of my youth on the other side. As the noise from the hallway faded, the world became silent. I leaned against the door, listening to Zhuang and Cuckoo's frantic cursing outside as they scrambled to rescue their belongings from the trash cart. A cold smile remained on my lips. I had fired the first shot of this war, and I had won, clean and simple. The next 2 days were quiet. Zhuang didn't harass me again. Menglan didn't call to scream at me. They were likely stunned by my resolve, or, more likely, they were huddled together plotting some even more malicious scheme to deal with the ungrateful woman. I didn't care. During those 2 days, I didn't allow myself to drown in past emotions. I set a strict schedule: exercise, reading, and picking up the professional textbooks I had neglected for so long. I even started replanning my career, my savings before I quit, plus the portion of the apartment funds Zhuang was legally required to cough up, would be enough for me to live comfortably for a long time. But I knew I couldn't stop. I had to become stronger, strong enough to control my own destiny so that no one could ever shake me again. On the third morning, I returned from my morning run and reflexively opened my email. An unread message was sitting in my inbox. The sender's name made my heart leap. Klaus Becker, the CEO of Rhine Power, the man known for being rigorous and conservative. He had replied. My palms grew damp as I clicked on the email. It was written in impeccable, standard German, formal and polite. "Dear MS Lin Shi, thank you very much for your letter and for your profound insights into the partnership prospects between Rhine Power and the Chinese market, the potential barriers in Sino-German cross-cultural business cooperation you mentioned were precise and insightful. Our entire project team found them deeply inspiring. We have a high degree of appreciation for your professional expertise in the field of cross-cultural communication. Regarding the personal character issues of our potential partner mentioned in your letter, we take this very seriously. Rhine Power has always believed that a stable and responsible personal life is the cornerstone of long-term commercial trust. Your warning was of vital importance to us. We have decided to re-evaluate all candidate enterprises for this partnership. Furthermore, we are very interested in the exceptional background displayed in your CV, particularly your profound understanding of German culture and your outstanding linguistic abilities. This Friday at 3:00 p.m., I will be holding final meetings with representatives from the candidate companies at our Shanghai headquarters. I cordially invite you to attend this meeting as a special cultural consultant. We believe your professional opinion will be of great assistance in helping us reach the correct final decision. We look forward to your presence. Best regards, Klaus Becker, Global CEO, Rhine Power. I read that short email 3 times over. Every word felt like a bullet hitting my heart, but instead of pain, it brought a surge of adrenaline and triumph. I had succeeded. Mr. Becker hadn't just believed me and halted the review of Zhuang's company, he had extended an invitation. Special Cultural Consultant. The title was tailor-made for me. It meant I would appear in person right in front of Zhuang, at the final review for the project he wanted most in the world, in a position of power he never could have imagined. I would personally be the one to hand down his death sentence. Is there a revenge more perfect than that? I could already see Zhuang's face twisting in shock when he saw me in that conference room. I took a deep breath to settle my nerves and immediately called Chen Jing. Sister Chen, he replied. My voice trembled slightly with excitement. I thought he might. Chen Jing laughed on the other end, her voice full of certainty. That old German gentleman is a sucker for professionalism like yours. I told her the contents of the email. The line went quiet for a few seconds. Xiaoxi, this is better than we imagined. Chen Jing's voice turned serious. This isn't just about revenge anymore. This is an opportunity, a chance for you to return to the top, Becca. Inviting you as a consultant is the highest recognition of your professional worth. You must seize this, give it 200%. Don't just think about crushing Zhuang, that's too low level. You want him to see exactly what kind of brilliant diamond he threw away. You want everyone to see that without him, you'll only live more radiantly and more spectacularly. Let him spend the rest of his life living in regret, looking up at you. Chen Jing's words were like a bolt of lightning clearing the fog. In my mind, she was right. I wasn't just there for revenge. I was there to take back everything that belonged to me, my career, my dignity, my life. Sister Chen, I understand. My voice became calm and steady again. Friday's meeting will be the stage for my rebirth. I hung up and walked to the closet. Looking at the soft, quiet clothes I had bought just to please Zhuang, my eyes turned razor-sharp. It was time to get myself a new suit of armor while preparing for Friday's Hongmen banquet. I didn't forget the other front, the war over the apartment. Zhuang and Meng Lan probably thought that if they just kept denying everything, I'd be helpless. They thought if they dragged it out, I'd be stuck with that heavy mortgage forever. They underestimated me, and they certainly underestimated Chen Jing. On Wednesday morning, a formal lawyer's letter from Chen Jing's firm was sent via secure courier to Zhuang's company and his parents' home. The letter was concise, clear, and filled with the indisputable authority of the law. First, it demanded an immediate division of our jointly owned property. The letter included every mortgage payment record from the date of purchase to the present. It showed, in black and white, that the payments came from my personal account over 2 years. I had single-handedly paid 480,000 yuan in principal and interest. Second, it demanded that Zhuang repay the 500,000 yuan down payment I had provided. Attached was a copy of my bank card transaction voucher. On that voucher, the 1 million yuan down payment was clearly split into two 500,000 yuan transactions. One came from Zhuang's account. The other transaction came precisely from the account of the card I had handed him. The timestamps, the amounts, and the recipient, the entire chain of evidence was complete and indisputable. Third, based on the aforementioned facts, we proposed two potential resolutions. Option A, Zhuang pays me the full 480,000 yuan in mortgage payments I personally covered, plus my original 500,000 yuan down payment totaling 980,000 yuan. Additionally, based on the current market appreciation of the property, he must provide an extra 1 million yuan in compensation. In exchange, I voluntarily waive my ownership rights and walk away. Option B. Should Zhuang's side be unable or unwilling to pay the aforementioned sums, we will immediately file a lawsuit with the court to apply for a forced auction of the property. The proceeds from the auction will be split strictly according to each party's financial contribution. Furthermore, Zhuang will be held liable for all litigation costs, attorney fees, and emotional distress damages caused by the cancellation of the wedding due to his personal misconduct. The end of the letter was written in bold, heavy typeface. Mr. Zhuang is granted 48 hours from the receipt of this letter to provide a definitive response, otherwise we will proceed directly with legal action. This lawyer's letter was like a precision-guided missile. It completely obliterated any lingering illusions of a lucky break held by Zhuang and Meng Lan. I could almost picture how ghastly Zhuang's face looked when he received that letter in his office, right in front of all his subordinates. I could also imagine the panic and fury Meng Lan felt when she saw that black and white legal document in her home. Sure enough, less than 2 hours after the letter was sent, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I picked up but remained silent. On the other end, Zhuang's voice was suppressed with a towering rage. Lin Shi, what the hell are you trying to do? His voice was trembling. I couldn't tell if it was from anger or fear. You're looking at exactly what I'm doing, I responded flatly. A 500,000 down payment. Lin Shi, don't you dare slander me. That money was clearly mine. He was still making a desperate final stand. Juang, are you talking to me or are you talking to my lawyer? I let out a soft chuckle. Save all your excuses for the courtroom, see if the judge believes your empty denials or my black and white bank vouchers. The line went dead silent. After a long pause he spoke again, a trace of barely perceptible pleading in his voice. Lin Shi, we have 10 years of history together. Do you really have to be this cold-blooded? He was playing the emotional card. How pathetic. Just days ago, he had used the most cruel method possible to trample those 10 years of history into the dirt in front of hundreds of people. Now he wanted to use that discarded relationship to beg for mercy. Juang, my voice was cold as ice. The moment you publicly announced you were marrying another woman, all sentiment between us died. Everything I'm doing today is simply taking back what belongs to me. It's you're the one who betrayed me first. You forced my hand. His voice became hysterical again. I forced you, I countered. Did I force you to keep another woman on the side? Did I force you to humiliate me at the reunion? If you hadn't become so aggressive, so disobedient, why would I have gone to Cuckoo? He actually had the audacity to flip the script. Cuckoo is so gentle, so considerate, she listens to everything I say, not like you. Look at yourself right now, you're acting like a lunatic. Listening to his ranting, I felt a sudden surge of nausea. So, in his mind, my independence and clarity were disobedience, my resistance and self-respect were aggressive. I was done saying a single word to this man. Juang, my patience is limited. Pick option A or option B if I or my lawyer haven't heard from attorney Chen Jing in 48 hours. Well, congratulations, I'll see you in court. I hung up and blocked the number immediately. There was no room left for negotiation in this war. I wanted a total victory, be it emotional or financial. I wouldn't let him take advantage of me for 1 second longer. Thursday afternoon was bright and sunny. I gave myself half a day off. My destination was Plaza 66, the most high-end luxury mall in the city center. Chen Jing was right. Friday's meeting was my stage and my battlefield. I needed a suit of armor, not to please anyone, but to arm myself. I walked into a brand I had previously only dared to look at through the window, Armani. Juang once said the clothes here were too sharp, too aggressive. He said they didn't suit a gentle woman like me. He claimed I should wear Chanel tweeds or Dior tulle, like a delicate flower that needed careful tending. Now I realized he was just afraid of me showing any edge. He was afraid of me becoming someone he couldn't easily control. Good afternoon, how may I help you? A meticulously made-up sales associate greeted me with a smile. Her eyes lingered on me for a split second. I was dressed casually today, white t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers. My entire outfit probably cost less than a fraction of a shirt in this store. But her smile held no judgment, only perfect professionalism. I'm looking for a suit suitable for an important business meeting, I said, my voice steady and certain. Of course, this way please, she led me to the formal wear section. My eyes scanned the rows of exquisitely tailored suits. Black was too heavy, grey was too conservative, white was too high profile. Finally, my gaze locked onto a deep sapphire blue suit. The color had an incredible depth to it. Under the lights it had a low profile, luxurious sheen like silk. The tailoring was classic Italian, a sharp single-button design that nipped in perfectly at the waist. It accentuated a woman's silhouette without being overly provocative. The trousers were a subtle flare, perfect for elongating the legs. It was professional, capable, and radiating a quiet sense of power. This was it. I'd like to try this one, I said, pointing to the sapphire suit. Excellent choice, you have a keen eye. She took the suit down and led me to the fitting room. When I changed and stepped out in front of the massive full-length mirror, I almost didn't recognize the woman looking back. The girl in the t-shirt and jeans was gone. In her place was an elite urban professional with an overwhelming presence and sharp eyes. The sapphire blue suit framed my body perfectly, making me look tall and commanding. I pulled my hair back into a sleek bun, exposing my forehead and long neck. The woman in the mirror had cold eyes and the ghost of a smile on her lips. She was a stranger, yet she felt more real than ever. This was the true me. This was the Lin Shi who was meant to be before I gave everything up. A Lin Shi who could shine in her own professional field. You look stunning. The associate's praise was genuine. This suit looks like it was made for you. It perfectly complements your aura. I nodded at the mirror, satisfied. I'll take it. I also need a silk blouse and a pair of heels to match. Certainly, one moment, soon. She returned with a champagne-colored silk blouse and black stilettos. I put them on, standing before the mirror again. My presence leveled up once more, the stability of the sapphire, the softness of the champagne, and the sharpness of the black blended perfectly. It had the rigor of a professional and the elegance of a woman. This outfit was enough to handle even the most grueling business environment. Wrap it up, I said, taking out my bank card while the associate was packaging my purchase. I received a call from Chen Jing. Found your battle armor yet? She asked with a laugh. Just did, a sapphire blue suit from Armani. I replied, oh, nice, you've got good taste. Chen Jing approved. Sounds like you're truly ready. By the way, one more thing, at that meeting on Friday, you aren't just a consultant, treat yourself as one of the hosts of Rhine Power. Don't show a hint of hesitation. Every point you make is for the sake of your company finding the right partner. Bring out your inner queen, let them all see who's really in charge. I understand, Sister Chen. I took a deep breath, my gaze hardening. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Chen Jing paused. Oh, by the way, there's movement from Zhuang's side. His lawyer just contacted me. They've agreed to option A. I blinked. Option A, paying me 980,000 for the apartment plus an extra million in compensation, a total of 198 million yuan. I didn't expect him to cave so quickly. He's probably scared. Chen Jing sneered over the phone. Scared that a real lawsuit will tank his 300 million yuan project. He thinks he can pay his way out of this disaster, that once the check clears, we're even. He thinks this will make Friday's meeting less awkward. How naive. Hearing Chen Jing's words, my smile grew colder. Did he think money could erase everything? Did he think 198 million could buy back my 10 years of youth and that earth-shattering humiliation? He was wrong, dead wrong. I would take the money, of course it was my due. But the revenge, I wouldn't stop for a second. The gift I had for him at Friday's meeting would only be heavier now. I got it, Sister Chen. I hung up and took the beautifully packaged shopping bags from the associate. They were heavy, but my heart felt lighter than ever. I carried my battle armor out of Plaza 66. The sunlight outside was almost blindingly bright. I raised my hand to shield my eyes. Through the gaps between my fingers, I looked out at the bustling city. Lin Shi am back. Friday 2:00 p.m. The Shanghai World Financial Center, Lujiazhu, home to the China headquarters of Rhine Power. I stepped out of the taxi and looked up at the skyscraper piercing the clouds. The glass curtain wall reflected the cold sunlight like an unsheathed blade. Today this was my Colosseum. I was clad in my sapphire blue battle armor, standing tall in 4-inch black stilettos. My hair was swept back into a flawless bun, and my face was set in a look of refined icy composure. My lipstick was the classic Dior 999 True Red, my weapon of choice. As I entered the building, the air was thick with the scent of money and the elite. Everyone was in a hurry, expressions grim. Following the instructions in the email, I made my way to the 78th floor. The moment the elevator doors slid open, the massive silver logo of Rhine Power greeted me. The receptionist was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed German woman. Seeing me, she flashed a practiced professional smile. Guten Tag, kann ich Ihnen helfen? Good day, how may I help you? Guten Tag, I replied with a smile. Ich bin Lin Shi, ich habe einen Termin mit Herrn Becker 15 Good day, I am Lin Shi. I have a 3:00 p.m. appointment with Mr. Becker. Hearing my fluent authentic German, a flash of pleasant surprise crossed her eyes. Her attitude shifted instantly to one of heightened warmth and respect. Frau Lin, herzlich willkommen. Ms. Lin, a very warm welcome. Herr Becker erwartet Sie bereits. Bitte folgen Sie mir. Mr. Becker is already expecting you, please follow me. She personally led me through the spacious, sun-drenched office. The interior design was quintessential German minimalism, calm, restrained, and filled with a sense of order. She brought me to the door of a grand conference room and pushed open the heavy frosted glass door. Frau Lin, bitte, Ms. Lin, please. I nodded in thanks, took a deep breath and walked in. Several groups of people were already seated inside. The atmosphere was thick with tension and suppressed anxiety. These were likely the other candidate companies for the final bid. Everyone was decked out in their best suits, sitting bolt upright. My gaze locked onto one group instantly, or rather it locked onto one person, Zhuang. He was sitting on the right side of the conference table, leaning over to whisper something to his vice president. He was wearing an expensive suit, His hair slicked back perfectly. He still maintained that successful elite persona, as if the ugliness at the reunion a few days ago and the pathetic scene at my front door had never happened. Perhaps my gaze was too intense. Sensing something, he suddenly jerked his head up. The moment he saw me, the composure and confidence on his face froze, then shattered. In its place was sheer shock and a terror he couldn't hide. His pupils constricted sharply and his mouth hung slightly open like a fish out of water. His VP was still talking to him, but Ju-eng couldn't hear a word. In his world there was only me, the Lin Shi he had never seen before, radiating a powerful presence in a sapphire blue suit, wearing a bold, aggressive red lip he had always hated, walking toward the center of the room with unhurried, graceful strides. The color drained from his face at a visible speed until he was pale as a sheet. He had probably rehearsed 10,000 scenarios in his head, but not once did he imagine I would appear here like this at the final review of the project he had staked his entire net worth on. The executives around him noticed his loss of composure. They followed his gaze toward me. When they saw me, their faces mirrored his confusion and shock. Some of them recognized me as Ju-ang's gentle and virtuous fiancé. I ignored their searching looks and walked straight to the other side of the table. There sat an empty chair with a nameplate on it in both German and Chinese. It read Special Cultural Consultant MS Lin Shi, Spezialberaterin für Kultur Frau Lin Shi. I pulled out the chair and sat down composedly, placing my leather bag and documents beside me. Throughout the process, I didn't give Ju-eng a single glance. I treated him like an irrelevant stranger. But from the corner of my eye, I could feel his gaze, a look filled with venom and fear, trying to pierce through me. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He lunged to his feet, ignoring his VP's attempt to hold him back, and rushed toward me. Lin Shi, he hissed my name through gritted teeth, his voice trembling with a turbulence he couldn't mask. Why the hell are you here? I slowly lifted my eyelids and looked at him. My gaze was as still as a frozen pond, the way one looks at a stranger making a scene. Mr. Ju, I began, my voice not loud but clear enough to carry across the silent room. I believe we are currently in a very serious business environment. If you have personal questions, I suggest we discuss them after the meeting. Furthermore, I paused, a cold, mocking curve touching my lips. Please be mindful of your words and your status. I am the special consultant invited by Rhine Power, and you, I let the words hang for a beat. You are merely a candidate waiting to be reviewed. My words were like a razor-sharp blade, plunging straight into his bloated ego. His face turned a deep, bruised purple, his lips quivered, but he couldn't find a single word to say. The executives behind him wore equally spectacular expressions, shocked, embarrassed, and completely lost. Just then the door opened again. A tall man with impeccably groomed silver hair walked in, flanked by a small entourage. He looked to be in his 60s. With eyes as sharp as a hawk's and an aura of authority that came from a lifetime of being in charge. Klaus Becker. His appearance caused the room to fall into an even deeper hush. Everyone stood up. Mr. Becker's eyes scanned the room, finally coming to rest on me. On his famously stern face, a warm smile actually appeared. He walked straight toward me. Ah, Frau Lin. He extended his hand. Ich freue mich sehr, dass Sie kommen. Konten. Ah, Ms. Lin, I am very pleased you could make it. I stood up and shook his hand with easy confidence. Herr Becker, die Ehre ist ganz auf meiner Seite. Mr. Becker, the honor is all mine. He nodded with satisfaction, then turned to the room and introduced me in fluent English. Gentlemen, let me introduce you. This is Ms. Lin Shi, an outstanding expert in Sino-German cross-cultural communication. Today, she will be our special cultural consultant to help us make the most correct decision. His voice was booming and powerful. When the title Special Cultural Consultant left his lips, I saw Ju-ang's body sway visibly. The last trace of color vanished from his face. He stared at me with pure despair and disbelief. He understood. He finally understood. I wasn't here to crash his party. I was here to deliver his sentence. Becker's introduction was like a thunderclap echoing through the room. All eyes were on me, filled with shock, curiosity, and awe, and of course there was Ju-ang's gaze brimming with a poison that threatened to consume me. I accepted the attention with grace, nodding to Mr. Becker with a smile. Then I sat back down in my designated seat. The meeting officially commenced. The atmosphere was solemn. Zhuang and his team were scheduled to present second. I could feel him squirming in his seat the entire time. That venomous gaze was like a thorn in my back, never leaving me. I didn't bother to spare him even a glance. I focused on the first company's presentation, occasionally jotting notes. In my ledger, my calm professionalism stood in stark contrast to his frantic disarray. Finally, it was Zhuang's turn. He took a deep breath, forced himself to appear steady, and walked to the podium. He opened his presentation and began the speech he had spent an entire year preparing, a speech he thought was flawless. I had to admit, from a purely commercial standpoint, his proposal was beautiful, the data was thorough, the logic was sound, and the prospects were enticing for any other project he might have actually succeeded. Unfortunately for him, today he was facing Rhine power. He was facing the rigorous, literal-minded Germans he could never truly understand, and more importantly, he was facing me. During his speech, I never once looked up, I just listened in silence, my pen flying across the paper. I could feel his voice losing its conviction. He kept glancing my way, searching my face for any sign of emotion, but I disappointed him. My expression remained one of professional, cool indifference. The 15-minute presentation felt like a century to him. When he uttered the final word, I could practically hear his sigh of relief. He stood there looking tensely at Mr. Becker, waiting for the final verdict. Mr. Becker didn't look at him. Instead, he turned his head and looked at me. He asked in a low, resonant voice, speaking in German, "Frau Lin, wie lautet Ihr fachliche Einschätzung? Ms. Lin, what is your professional assessment?" It was here I knew my moment had arrived. Once again, every eye in the room gravitated toward me. Zhuang stared at me with an intensity that bordered on desperation, fine beads of cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. He didn't understand a word of German. He had no idea what Mr. Becker had asked, but he had a premonition. Every word I was about to utter would decide his fate. I set down my pen, lifted my head, and met Mr. Becker's sharp gaze. In the same flawless, sophisticated German, I began to speak. My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear and chilling, like ice crystals falling on a jade plate. Herr Becker, vielen Dank für diese Gelegenheit. Mr. Becker, thank you for this opportunity. Meine Einschätzung nach weist dieser Vorschlag zwar ein beeindruckendes Geschäftsmodell auf, ignoriert jedoch grundlegend kulturell Unterschied, die für den Erfolg unserer Zusammenarbeit entscheidend sind. In my assessment, while this proposal presents an impressive business model, it ignores fundamental cultural differences that are critical to the success of our partnership. As soon as I said this, a look of genuine interest sparked in the eyes of Mr. Becker and his team of German executives. Although Zhuang couldn't understand the words, he saw the shift in their expressions, and his heart sank into the abyss. I continued without a pause. Erstens, die Communication Strategy. First, the communication strategy. Der Fokus auf effizient, schnell Entscheidungsfindungspricht zwar dem chinesischen Geschäftsstil vernachlässigt aber völlig das deutsche Bedürfnis nach Konsens und detaillierter Planung, des sogenannten Konsensprinzip. The emphasis on efficient, rapid decision-making aligns with Chinese business styles, but completely neglects the German need for consensus and detailed planning, the so-called consensus principle. Dieser aggressive Ansatz wird von den deutschen Partnern als Druck und Respektlosigkeit empfunden werden, was die Vertrauensbasis von Anfang an zerstören wird. This aggressive approach would be perceived by German partners as pressure and a lack of respect, destroying the foundation of trust necessary for a long-term relationship from the very start. With every sentence I spoke, Mr. Becker gave a slow, deliberate nod. Several executives beside him even began whispering in German, their faces showing clear agreement. Zhuang's face was now as white as a sheet. He looked at me with eyes full of pleading, as if begging me to spare him. But why would I stop? Zweitens, das Personalmanagement. Second, Personnel Management. Der Plan, ein rein chinesisches Management-Team einzusetzen, Effizienz zu gewährleisten, ist ein fataler Fehler. The plan to dispatch a purely Chinese management team to ensure efficiency is a fatal mistake. Dies ignoriert die Bedeutung der Mitbestimmung in der deutschen Unternehmenskultur. Ein rein chinesisches Führungsteam wird unweigerlich zu massiven internen Konflikten und einem Motivationsverlust führen. This ignores the importance of co-determination in German corporate culture. A purely Chinese leadership team will inevitably lead to massive internal conflicts and a loss of motivation. Drittens und am wichtigsten, das Risikobewusstsein. Third and most crucially risk awareness. Der Gesamtplan ist von einem extremen Optimismus geprägt. Der potenziell Risiken stark unterschätzt. Das widerspricht fundamental der deutschen Denkweise. Immer zuerst das Worst-Case-Szenario zu betrachten. The entire plan is characterized by an extreme optimism that severely underestimates potential risks. This is fundamentally contrary to the German mindset of always considering the worst case. Scenario first. Ein Partner, der Risiken nicht ehrlich benennt, gilt in den Augen deutscher Unternehmen nicht als vertrauenswürdig. A partner who cannot honestly point out risks is not considered a trustworthy partner in the eyes of German companies. As my voice trailed off, the conference room fell into a deathly silence. The expressions on the faces of Mr. Becker and his team were no longer just ones of agreement, they were now filled with total conviction and admiration. My few minutes of analysis had been like a precision surgical strike. I had dissected Zhuang's perfect proposal at its cultural core until there was nothing left. Every issue I pointed out hit the Achilles heel of what the Germans valued most. These were blind spots that Zhuang and his so-called elite team could never reach. No matter how many all-nighters they pulled or how many data models they built, finally I reached the closing of my judgment. I turned my head and for the first time looked directly at Zhuang, who was swaying unsteadily on the podium. I switched back to Mandarin. My voice was ice-cold and crystal clear. Therefore, Mr. Becker, my final conclusion is this. While Mr. Zhuang's company possesses decent commercial potential, I paused deliberately, watching his bloodless face as I enunciated every word. Their corporate culture and style of operation present a fundamental, irreconcilable conflict with the values of rigor, integrity, and mutual respect cherished by Rhine Power. I do not recommend them. After speaking, I didn't look at him again. I turned back to Mr. Becker and added politely in German, Das war mein Analyse, vielen Dank. That is my analysis, thank you. Mr. Becker looked at me with undisguised admiration. He stood up and led the room in applause. Hervorragend, Frau Lin, absolut hervorragend. Exemplary, Miss Lin, absolutely exemplary. Ihre Einsichten sind für uns von unschätzbarem Wert. Your insights are a treasure to us. His German executives followed suit, standing up to applaud. On the other side of the table, Zhuang's team looked like they had seen a ghost. Zhuang himself stood frozen on the stage like a statue that had been hollowed out. He had lost utterly and completely. He had been stripped bare to the very end. He didn't even fully understand how he had been defeated. Mr. Becker turned to Zhuang, the smile vanishing from his face as his usual sternness returned. He spoke in a toneless English. Mr. Zhu, thank you for your presentation. However, as Ms. Lin just pointed out, we believe there are fundamental differences between our corporate cultures. We have decided to terminate our partnership discussions with your company. I wish you luck in your future endeavors. With that, he made a gesture of please leave, an eviction notice. Direct and merciless, Zhuang's body jerked violently, nearly collapsing. His VP and colleagues rushed forward to steady him. They gathered their things like a pack of defeated roosters and prepared to slink out of the room. As he passed by me, Zhuang stopped. He glared at me with bloodshot eyes. Anger was gone, replaced by an endless, hollow bitterness and despair. Lin Shi, he rasped, his voice sounding like a broken bellows. You're so cruel. I didn't even look up. I was already leaning over, smiling as I discussed the technical highlights of the next candidate company with a technical director beside Mr. Becker. He no longer existed in my world. The greatest form of contempt I could show him was total indifference. He and those 10 years were nothing more than an irrelevant page that had already been turned. Zhuang watched the confident, effortless smile on my face. He watched me chatting and laughing with the German executives. He finally understood what he had lost. He had abandoned a priceless diamond, one he had personally allowed to be covered in dust. A muffled sound, like the low howl of a beast, escaped his throat. Finally, he was half dragged and half carried out of the conference room by his subordinates, out of the courtroom where he had fallen from the clouds into the depths of hell. As the door shut behind Zhuang, it felt as if an old era had been sealed away. The suffocating smell of gunpowder in the air vanished instantly. replaced by a pure, calm professional atmosphere. Mr. Becker's sternness melted as he turned back to me with blatant praise. Lin, allow me to express my gratitude once more, he said in German, his voice sincere. You saved Rhine Power from a massive potential mistake today. A company that only knows how to talk big but has zero reverence for a partner's cultural core, no matter how enticing their business model, is destined not to go far with us. I smiled back. You flatter me, Mr. Becker. I was simply fulfilling my duty as a consultant. No, you did far more than that. Mr. Becker shook his head, his sharp eyes seemingly able to peer into one's soul. I could sense that your assessment of Mr. Ju was based on more than just professional analysis. His question was direct, but I wasn't surprised. A man who runs such a vast commercial empire wouldn't be fooled by surface-level reports. I didn't avoid his gaze, answering him candidly. Yes, Mr. Becker, Mr. Juang and I were once engaged. I said it as if I were stating a fact about someone else. A few of the German executives showed a hint of surprise. Mr. Becker, however, simply nodded knowingly, as if he had already surmised as much. Just as our partnership talks were entering the final stage, he chose to publicly announce his marriage to another lady in front of hundreds of former classmates. I stated the facts concisely, without adding any emotional accusations. As a businesswoman, I understand cold, rational business decisions, but as someone who knows the German spirit, I also believe that a person's character is the foundation of all their professional conduct. Mr. Becker's gaze deepened. A man who can easily betray a partner of 10 years is not someone I can trust to honor a commercial contract. A man who humiliates his former love in the most public and cruel way possible is not someone who understands the true meaning of respect, and trust and respect are the very cornerstones of Rhine Power's relationships. His words carried immense weight, serving as both a final footnote to today's outcome and a reason for my sincere respect toward him and this German family business. This was true entrepreneurship. So my assessment today was both professional and personal. I told him honestly. I admit I had my own motives, but I can also guarantee that every word I said is worthy of the consulting fee Rhine Power paid me. And even more worthy of my professional integrity. My candor seemed to make Mr. Becker admire me even more. He broke into a hearty laugh that echoed through the room. Good, excellent, Ms. Lin. I love your honesty and I admire your professionalism and courage even more. He paused, his tone shifting. Since we have successfully eliminated a wrong option, I would now like to propose a new one I believe is absolutely correct. He looked at me with burning intensity. Ms. Lin Shi, I hereby formally invite you to join Rhine Power. The invitation, though somewhat anticipated, still made my heart skip a beat when it actually came from his mouth. We are preparing to establish a new strategic development department in China, focused on Sino-German cultural integration and business expansion, and I want you to be the Chief Executive Officer of this department. Chief Executive Officer, CEO. This position far exceeded my initial expectations. It was no longer a simple job offer, it was a profound gesture of trust and a vast stage where I could fully realize my ambitions. I looked into Mr. Becker's expectant eyes and at the nodding German executives behind him. I knew then, the Lin Shi who had once willingly clipped her own wings for the sake of love was dead. Standing here now was a brand new version of myself. Ready to soar into the highest heavens, I stood up and offered Mr. Becker a slight, respectful bow. Mr. Becker, thank you for your trust. I am deeply honored by your invitation. I accept. Juang didn't even know how he managed to leave that cold, towering skyscraper. His mind was a total blank, filled only with a persistent, high-pitched ringing in his ears. Mr. Becker's words, terminate the cooperation negotiation, had been a sledgehammer, smashing his pride, his ambition, and his entire world into dust. And Lin Shi's final look, that cold, mocking gaze as she uttered "I do not recommend them," was a poisoned dagger that had left his heart riddled with holes. It wasn't until he sat in the company's business van that he felt as if he were waking from a nightmare. President Ju, what do we do now? The vice president beside him whispered, his face equally ashen. Shut up. Juang roared like a wounded beast. His eyes were bloodshot, the veins on his forehead bulging. He grabbed the thick project proposal from the seat and hurled it violently against the car window. Crash! The heavy stack of papers scattered across the floor. That was the blood, sweat, and tears of his entire team for a full year now. It was just a pile of waste paper. The driver and the VP were terrified into silence, not daring to utter another word. The atmosphere in the car was pressurized, feeling as if it might explode at any second. Back at the office, the news couldn't be suppressed. The failure of the Rhine Power project spread through the company like a plague. Everyone saw Juang's hollow, soul-crushed expression. Some of the more perceptive employees had already begun quietly updating their resumes. They all knew that to win this bid, the company had mortgaged almost everything and poured in all its liquid capital. With the project dead, they were likely looking at a broken capital chain, followed by bankruptcy and liquidation. Juang locked himself in his office, chain-smoking one cigarette after another. Through the swirling haze of smoke, the scenes from the conference room replayed in his mind over and over. Lin Shi, always Lin Shi. He couldn't wrap his head around it. How could the woman who had been so submissive, the woman who never dared to go west if he said east, suddenly become so unrecognizable and terrifying? That sapphire suit, those sharp and confident eyes, that fluent German that had chilled him to the bone. She was like a nemesis rising from the depths, destroying everything he owned in the most elegant yet lethal way possible. You'll be the one to regret it. He suddenly remembered the harsh words he'd thrown at Lin Shi at the apartment door a few days ago. You'll regret this. How laughable those words seemed now. The person truly drowning in regret was him. His heart was green with it. He regretted ever provoking her. He regretted the stupid, arrogant way he had tried to humiliate her at the reunion. He had thought he was the one in control. He thought that if Lin Shi left him, she'd be like a fish out of water, unable to survive. But he was wrong. He was the stupid fish, and Lin Shi was the deep, fathomless ocean he had never truly understood. Just as he was on the verge of a total breakdown, the office door pushed open. It was Cuckoo. She was wearing a pure white dress and carrying a thermal lunchbox. Ang, she started softly, a timid smile on her face. VP Wang said you were in a bad mood. I made you the chicken soup you love. She didn't get to finish. Juang snapped his head up, his bloodshot eyes glaring at her with such ferocity and venom that Cuckoo trembled, the rest of her words catching in her throat. Get out, Juang hissed through his teeth. Ang. Cuckoo's eyes welled up instantly, tears blurring her vision. What happened? Was there a problem with the project? It's okay, even if it failed, we can start over. I'll always be by your side. Her words only served to light the fuse on his explosive rage. By my side with what? Juang lunged to his feet, sweeping every file off his desk with one violent motion. What do you know other than crying and acting cute? What can you actually do? Do you have any idea how important that project was to me? Do you know how much I sacrificed for it? It's all because of you. If I hadn't done all this for you, I wouldn't have ended up like this with Lin Shi. I wouldn't have lost this project. He piled all his failure and fury onto the woman he had once thought would be his solace. Cuckoo was paralyzed by his monstrous transformation. The thermal box fell from her hands with a loud clatter. Scalding soup splashed everywhere, a messy, pathetic sight. She sobbed, unable to form a sentence. She couldn't understand how the man who had treated her like a precious angel just days ago had suddenly turned into a demon. Get out, I said get out. I don't want to see your face ever again. Juang screamed hysterically, pointing at the door. Cuckoo ran out in tears. In the office, only the sound of Juang's ragged breathing remained. He slumped back into his chair, burying his hands in his hair and groaning in agony. He knew he was finished. His career, his love, everything was gone. Just then, his personal phone rang. It was his mother, Meng Lan. As soon as he answered, her shrill, panicked voice came through. Son, something's happened. Come home quick. The people from the court are here. They have a seizure order. They say they're going to put our house up for auction. This news was the final straw. Juang's vision went black, and he lost consciousness completely. His business empire and his life collapsed into ruins on that very same day, Saturday morning. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the blinds, splashing across my new linen sheets. I opened my eyes to the scent of sunshine and fresh grass in the air. No more oppression, no more resentment. The entire room felt light, airy, and free. I had spent 2 days completely transforming this apartment, which had once been a tomb of suffocating memories. I threw away every trace of Juang and every piece of soft decor I'd bought just to appease his tastes. I repainted the walls in the calm, sophisticated Morandi tones I loved. I hung abstract paintings that spoke to me in the study. The entire wall of books was replaced with my own professional texts and original foreign language editions. This place was finally truly my home, a sanctuary where I could lower my guard and simply breathe. After getting ready, I made a simple breakfast, a fried egg toast, and a cup of fresh ground black coffee. I sat at the table, scrolling through my phone as I ate. An email from Chen Jing's law firm sat in my inbox, subject confirmation of payment from Mr. Zhuang. I opened it. Attached was a screenshot of a bank transfer voucher. It clearly showed that a total of 198 million yuan had been deposited into my designated account yesterday before 5:00 p.m. Below the figures was a small note, property division and compensation. Looking at those numbers, there was no great surge of emotion in my heart, no thrill of revenge, no excitement at the sudden wealth, only the calm of a final resolution. This money was my due. It was the delayed justice for 10 years of my youth and a brutal betrayal. It symbolized the final severing of all ties between myself and Zhuang. From now on, we would walk our separate paths. We were officially nothing to each other. Another update came from Chen Jing via WeChat. She told me that Zhuang's company was facing a massive crisis of confidence following the failure of the Rhine project. Several major investors had pulled out, and the company's stock price had hit the floor overnight. The banks were calling in their loans. According to reliable sources, Zhuang had begun selling off his personal assets to fill the company's gaping financial hole. The only property in his name, the one his parents were currently living in, had been posted for mandatory court auction, and Zhuang himself, he had reportedly suffered an acute myocardial infarction from the shock and was currently hospitalized. I read the news and simply finished the last sip of my coffee. I didn't feel any pity for him. This was a disaster of his own making. You reap what you sow. As adults, we must all pay the price for the choices we make. That afternoon, I met Chen Jing at a high-end restaurant on the Bund to celebrate our shared victory. Congratulations, Xiao Shi, Chen Jing said, raising her champagne glass with a brilliant, bold smile. Not only did you get your money back, but you landed a career with a limitless future. More importantly, you won yourself back to our glowing new lives, to new beginnings. I laughed, clinking my glass against hers and finishing the golden liquid in one go. By the way, Chen Jing set her glass down and gave me a mischievous look. I heard that handsome old German gentleman is quite taken with your talent. He said once you officially start, he's going to personally take you to the German headquarters for a month-long inspection. TSK, that's a massive honor. You better make the most of it. Sister Chen, stop teasing me. I laughed helplessly. I'm not teasing. Chen Jing's expression turned serious. Xiao Shi, you are wonderful. You deserve the best the world has to offer. The last 10 years, treat it like food given to a dog. For the rest of your days, you live for yourself. Love who you want to love, do what you want to do, and be whoever you want to be. Don't ever let anyone become a shackle on your life again. Chen Jing's words were like a warm stream flowing through my heart. She was right. Live for yourself. It was a sentence that seemed so simple. Yet it had taken me 10 years to truly understand what it meant. After saying goodbye to Chen Jing, I didn't go home immediately. Instead, I walked alone along the riverbank of the Bund. The river breeze tossed my hair and blew away the last lingering shadow in my heart. I looked at the glittering lights of Lujiazhu across the water, at the World Financial Center where I was about to begin my new battle. There was no more confusion or fear in my heart, only an endless sense of anticipation and longing.